You wake up, you grab your phone off the nightstand, and the notification is just sitting right there on your lock screen.
Oh yeah, direct deposit.
Exactly. It's payday. And for about 10 seconds, there's this undeniable rush, right? You look at that updated bank balance, and the money you just traded a month of your life for is finally yours.
Right, but almost the moment you process that number, a psychological tug of war kicks off in your brain.
Oh, totally. Do you lock every cent away to build a fortress against the unknown? Or, do you take that money and go buy yourself a piece of life today?
It's basically the ultimate modern dilemma. We all face it months after month.
Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're looking at a piece of source material that honestly completely caught me off guard.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one.
Right. On the surface, it's a transcript from a broadcast called Tim's English Channel, and the stated purpose is just to teach basic, everyday English vocabulary to language learners.
So the hosts there use very clear pacing, very accessible words, not too fast, not too difficult.
Right. But they've essentially created a Trojan horse. To teach simple words like spend and save, they use one of the most universally shared psychological struggles we have.
They bypass the dry grammar stuff and just dive straight into the emotional weight of money, which is brilliant.
That's what we're going to unpack today, because whether you're learning English or you've spoken it your entire life, the mission here is to understand the behavioral psychology hidden inside this lesson.
We're going to dissect the two financial personalities battling inside your head.
Yeah, and why we use credit cards as, emotional band-aids,
Yeah.
and how this broadcast actually maps out a blueprint for financial peace of mind.
So the source material structures this whole internal conflict by personifying it. They introduce us to two distinct voices that try to take the wheel of our decision-making.
And the first one is the spender.
Oh, the spender.
This voice gets incredibly loud on payday. It's the voice that says, I work 40 hours a week, I'm exhausted, the world is stressful, I deserve a reward.
Yeah, it's entirely focused on the present tense.
Right.
And we really shouldn't dismiss that voice as entirely irrational. I mean, the source doesn't frame the spender as the villain here.
No, not at all.
There's a profound psychological value to what they call immediate joy. We aren't just machines designed to accumulate capital.
Yeah, spending money is a mechanism for anchoring ourselves in the present moment.
Exactly. The broadcast gives these beautifully simple examples, like buying a genuinely nice cup of coffee that makes your morning commute bearable.
Or putting money toward a trip with your friends. There's a real experiential value there.
Right. Because if you just hoard everything, you're missing out on the compounding interest of human memories. You can't wait until you're 80 years old to finally permit yourself to smile.
Okay, let's unpack this, though, because the source is very careful to draw a line. The spender persona becomes destructive when the spending shifts from, acquiring utility to attempting emotional regulation.
Yeah, emotional regulation.
That's the late night shopping anecdote they bring up, which I think is going to hit uncomfortably close to home for a lot of people listening.
It's a textbook behavioral trap.
So imagine you have a terrible Friday at work. Your boss is upset, the commute is awful, you're just drained.
We've all been there.
You get home, sink into the couch, open your laptop, and just start browsing. And you find a jacket. Do you need a winter jacket?
No, it's May.
Exactly. But the checkout process is so frictionless, and you just want to feel something other than stressed. So you click buy. It's like we treat our credit cards as emotional band-aids.
That's a great way to put it.
We're bleeding anxiety, so we just slap a poultice on the wound to stop the pain.
Well, let's look at why that specific scenario ends in failure. In that moment on the couch, your brain is seeking a quick hit of dopamine.
Right.
The novelty of the potential purchase provides a spike of anticipation. But you aren't actually trying to buy a garment to keep you warm. You are attempting to purchase relief.
You're trying to buy the feeling of being in control, really.
Exactly, or just the feeling of comforting yourself.
Right.
But an object can't hold an emotion.
It just holds a receipt.
Precisely. And here's the tragic comedy the source points out. That jacket takes 3 days to arrive. By Tuesday, the context has completely changed.
You're no longer stressed about last Friday's meeting. The emotional cut has healed.
Right. So the Band-Aid arrives in the mail, and you just look at it wondering what happened. The arrival of the object shatters the illusion.
The dopamine is gone, the stress is gone, and you're just left looking at an item you don't need.
And a depleted bank account. The gap between what you hoped the purchase would do for your mood and the reality of this useless object triggers that uncomfortable clash in your brain.
Which brings us to one of the core vocabulary words in the broadcast, guilty. You
Yes.
feel that sinking guilt because the logical part of your brain comes back online and realizes you burned resources on a coping mechanism that didn't even work.
And human beings hate the feeling of guilt. I
Right.
mean, we will do almost anything to avoid experiencing it twice.
Which creates this natural, violent pendulum swing in the opposite direction. If spending makes me feel guilty and reckless, I'm just going to lock the vault. I'm not spending a dime.
Enter the second personality from our source material, the saver.
The saver. Driven by a completely different mechanism, right?
Yeah, while the spender is chasing the dopamine of a present reward, the saver is operating on loss aversion, just a hyper-awareness of future vulnerability.
I found the sources examples here really compelling because
Right.
they don't talk about saving for a yacht or some luxury retirement. They frame saving around surviving everyday disasters.
Right, they focus on the sudden, chaotic nature of life, like a car breaking down on the way to a crucial appointment.
Or the incredibly relatable modern tragedy of dropping your phone into a body of water.
Oh, the waterlogged phone, it's a nightmare.
But let's look at why the source focuses on that. If you have $0 in your bank account, a broken phone is an existential crisis.
Absolutely. You might lose your job because you can't answer emails.
Or you can't pay rent because you have to finance a new device at some crazy interest rate. It creates a cascading failure in your life.
But notice the psychological shift if you have the saver's mindset. If you have a cash buffer, that exact same broken phone is no longer a crisis.
Right. It is downgraded to a logistical nuisance.
Exactly. You go to the store, you replace it, and your life trajectory remains unaltered.
The broadcast uses this great phrase saying that savings let you sleep better at night.
Because you are purchasing psychological shock absorbers. The saver recognizes that you can't control the chaos of the world, but you can control your exposure to it.
Yeah, the money sitting in that account isn't just numbers. It's a quantified measurement of your safety.
That's spot on.
I understand the appeal of that safety. But I'm going to push back a little here because I know people who operate entirely as savers, and it honestly looks exhausting. Can you save too much?
Oh, the source directly addresses the dark side of the saver, yes.
Yeah.
Extreme behavior in either direction fractures your well-being. Think about the mindset of the extreme saver.
They view every dollar spent as a vulnerability.
Right. So they never go to a restaurant. They decline invitations to travel. They never buy a gift for themselves.
Because today's joy is viewed as a theft from tomorrow's security.
And it leads to the tragedy of deferred living. You spend your entire youth waiting for a future moment where you finally feel safe enough to enjoy your resources.
But that horizon constantly recedes, doesn't it?
Exactly. The spender is trapped by the guilt of yesterday's choices, but the extreme saver is paralyzed by the anxiety of tomorrow's possibilities.
So you have two fundamentally flawed operating systems. The spender lives vividly today but might be ruined tomorrow. The saver is bulletproof tomorrow but lives like a ghost today.
Yeah.
The English lesson introduces the conceptual fix for this, giving us the word balance,
Having equal parts of both.
which sounds lovely in a classroom, right? But just find balance is essentially a platitude. It's like telling someone who is stressed out to just relax.
It doesn't give you the mechanism to actually achieve it.
Exactly. And that's where this broadcast elevates itself from a simple vocabulary lesson to practical behavioral psychology. It doesn't just define the word, it provides the tools to construct that balance.
Let's dig into the first tool they offer.
Oh, I'm absolutely stealing this for my own life. They call it the 24-hour rule.
It's a brilliant defense mechanism against our own impulses.
The rule is aggressively simple. If you are browsing online or walking through a store and you see something you intensely want,
A new phone, a nice shirt.
yeah, anything, you are physically not allowed to buy it in that moment. You force yourself to put it down and wait one full 24-hour cycle.
To understand why this works, we have to look at what psychologists call the hot-cold empathy gap. When you first see that shiny new thing, you are in a hot emotional state.
Right.
Your brain's reward center is firing, you're experiencing that spike in desire, and your logical long-term planning brain is essentially suppressed.
You're legally intoxicated by consumerism.
Basically, yes. You cannot make a rational assessment in that state. So the 24-hour rule acts as a circuit breaker. It forces a mandatory cooling-off period.
By walking away, you let that emotional storm pass.
You let the emotional temperature drop back to room level.
And the source points out that after a day, you often look back at the item and realize the urgency is completely gone.
Right. If you still genuinely want it and can afford it 24 hours later, the decision is coming from your rational brain, not your impulse.
You've bypassed the spender's trap simply by introducing time into the equation.
That solves the impulse control issue. But the broadcast introduces a second tool to address the structural issue of balance, which is the budget.
Okay, I have to admit, the word budget usually makes me want to run for the hills.
Same here, honestly.
It feels like a financial diet plan, you know? Just a spreadsheet telling me all the things I'm not allowed to do. It feels like the ultimate weapon of the extreme saver.
That is the most common resistance to budgeting, yeah, viewing it as an instrument of deprivation. But the source introduces a concept that completely flips that paradigm. It's the idea of designating a specific category called fun money.
Fun money. Explain how that changes the psychology, because it sounds like a paradox.
It relies on a concept called mental accounting. We treat money differently depending on the label we attach to it.
Yeah.
If you just have one big pool of money every time you buy a pizza or movie ticket, the saver voice in your head attacks you, claiming you're jeopardizing your rent or your emergency fund.
Because it all comes from the same pile. Every dollar spent on fun is a dollar stolen from survival.
Exactly. But a budget isn't a restriction. It's an allocation of purpose. By explicitly setting aside a small fixed amount of money every month and labeling it fun money, you are building an emotional permission slip into your life.
You're isolating it from the survival funds.
You are telling your brain, the rent is safe, the emergency fund is funded, this specific $50 has only one job, to buy immediate joy. When you spend it, the saver voice has no grounds to attack you. The guilt is entirely neutralized.
That is a massive paradigm shift. You're simultaneously satisfying the saver's need for predictability and the spender's need for present-day joy. You can buy that morning coffee without feeling like you're sabotaging your future.
And that is the operational definition of balance. You've created a system where the two personalities are no longer at war.
Having explored all of this, the dopamine of the spender, the loss aversion of the saver, the cooling off period of the 24-hour rule, and the permission slips of fun money, we arrive at what I think is the most elegant part of this source material.
Oh, the end of the broadcast.
Yeah. At the very end, they do a word tour for their English learners.
Just a standard recap of the vocabulary they covered.
Well, on the surface, yes. They list 6 specific words: payday, spend, save, guilty, future, and balance. But if you look at the sequence, I mean, they haven't just given a random list.
No, they haven't.
They have mapped out the exact chronological steps of our financial lives.
It's the hero's journey of personal finance.
It really is.
Let's trace the arc. The story begins with a catalyst, payday. That is the inciting incident. Resources enter your environment, and neutrality is no longer an option. You are forced to make a choice.
And from that catalyst, the path splits into the next 2 words: spend or save.
The great dichotomy. Now, if we travel down the spend path without a system, driven by impulse and emotional band-aids, we inevitably crash into the consequence, which is the 4th word, guilty.
The heavy realization that you messed up.
Right. But if we overcorrect and sprint down the save path, obsessively hoarding every coin, we collide with the 5th word, the future.
We become paralyzed by the anxiety of the unknown, just sacrificing our current existence for a tomorrow that isn't even guaranteed.
So the narrative traps us. Whether we are suffocating under the guilt of the past or paralyzed by the fear of the future, we are in a state of suffering. The tension demands a resolution.
And that resolution is the final word on their list: balance.
The synthesis. It's incredibly profound that an everyday language lesson manages to encapsulate the entire psychological spectrum of financial literacy in just 6 words.
It proves that managing money isn't just an exercise in math.
No.
Spreadsheets don't feel fear. Calculators don't feel guilt. This broadcast highlights that financial literacy is deeply reliant on emotional literacy.
Very true.
If you can't understand the brain chemistry driving your urge to buy a jacket at midnight, or the anxiety driving your refusal to take a vacation, all the math in the world won't save you.
You have to solve the emotional equation before the mathematical one can work.
So to recap the journey we've taken through this source material, we started with the universal thrill of payday and the immediate tension it injects into our lives.
Okay.
We decoded the spender, that desperate desire for immediate joy, and the trap of using frictionless online shopping to regulate our daily stress, only to end up with buyer's remorse and a jacket we don't need.
We then examined the natural counter-reaction, the saver. We looked at how savings act as a psychological shock absorber, turning a waterlogged phone from a life-altering crisis into a mere inconvenience. Yet we also noted the danger of the extreme saver, who mortgages their present life entirely for the illusion of total future security.
We brought those two extremes together using practical tools, the 24-hour rule to cool our emotional state, and the concept of fun money within a budget, acting as an emotional permission slip that removes guilt entirely.
And finally, we saw how 6 seemingly basic English vocabulary words trace the entire map of this human struggle, culminating in the difficult but necessary achievement of balance.
It's been a fascinating deep dive into a source you wouldn't expect to yield so much insight. But taking a cue from the interactive nature of Tim's English channel, we want to turn the lens onto you.
We need to know where your natural baseline sits in this tug of war.
Are you instinctively a saver, just constantly scanning the horizon for the next emergency to protect yourself against? Or are you naturally a spender, always seeking that immediate, tangible joy of the present moment?
And more importantly,
Yeah, as we talked about fun money, what is that one specific thing you love to buy just to anchor yourself in a good day?
I love the examples they used in the broadcast.
They were so charming, like buying fresh flowers for the room to bring some joy, or a ticket to the cinema. What is your version of that?
As you consider your answer to that, I'll leave you with this final thought. We are constantly fed the old saying that money can't buy happiness.
Sure.
It's repeated so frequently, it's almost lost its meaning. But viewing that saying through the lens of our deep dive today offers a slightly sharper perspective.
How so?
Well, it's true that money alone cannot simply purchase a sustained state of joy the way you'd purchase a consumer good.
Hmm.
But finding that exact elusive balance, where you honor your present self with small joys while simultaneously protecting your future self from chaos,
Yeah.
that specific balance buys you peace of mind. And when you strip everything else away, isn't peace of mind almost the exact same thing as happiness?
Oh, wow. That is definitely something to think about the next time you get that direct deposit notification. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Keep questioning your daily habits, keep looking for deep insights in simple places, and most importantly, go out and spend a little bit of your fun money completely guilt-free today. We'll catch you next time.